Welcome to Triumph Fuel and Fire, the podcast where we ignite conversations about mindset, resilience, wellness, nutrition, and leadership. My name's Tyler, owner of Triumph Studios here, where we believe in transforming trials into triumphs and fueling the fire to do hard things. And at Triumph, it's more than just fitness. It's about building stronger minds, fueling the body with intention, cultivating community, and showing up for your life and others with grit and purpose. And this podcast is your space for inspiration, challenge, and empowerment. And today I'm excited to welcome Justin Harkelroad, the founder of Triumph, along with his wife Corina here. And we're just going to dive into mindset, business, all of the things that led not only you and I to meet, but to where we're at now.
Thanks.
And where we're going.
I'm excited.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's pretty wild. I mean, I know we've joked many times about like how we actually met, but like, what do you remember from your side?
Well, my wife went out and met you, so she used to work for the agency before you came on board, which is super cool. But she went out and saw a male receptionist at a mortgage company,
and I knew that day after she left. I remember I looked back at the ladies I was working with, and I was like, she was way too nice. Yeah, but she brought muffins. It was her and Brandy.
Yep.
I remember.
Yep.
And I just remember being like, man, I appreciate it, but I'm not going to eat these. And then she's like, why?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how we started.
And she said, I met this guy who lost a bunch of weight with Shakeology. So that's when we started that P90X.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what year that was.
Man, that had to be 2012-ish.
After the boys were born? So I feel like it was maybe before the boys, but
no, it was after.
Okay. Yeah.
It was after. And it might have been when I came to join and work with you, which was a couple of years later, you had just had Lily.
That was 2014. So, yeah. So, right.
It was like 2012.
We need a P90X, bro.
Well, I remember.
Okay.
Because she was like, my husband does not eat vegetables. He eats nothing green. And I thought she was joking because, like, sometimes people say that, but I can tell you for a fact,
shit don't change.
This dude does not eat anything green.
Nope.
Nothing.
I can't think of a single green thing.
No, because I tried.
Yep.
We had many conversations. You were finally like, no.
I take green pills. That's what I take every day.
Like, how many times do I got to tell you no?
Yeah.
But, I mean, through that conversation that her and I had, was back when I was doing P90X a whole bunch and had entered into Beachbody's annual challenge. Which, crazy enough, ended up winning in 2012.
Yep.
They flew in Kelly and I to Vegas. And what'd you think of P90X when?
It was awful.
When you first got it? Yeah.
Awful. Plyometrics day was the worst day of the week. No, that's not true. Yoga was the worst day of the week.
That was same.
Because of the length of time it took to do it.
An hour and 32 minutes.
Yes.
I remember it very well.
It's got to be the most commonly skipped DVD.
Probably.
And that's a DVD. Children, if you know what a DVD is, it's a little CD.
I still have mine.
Plays movies on it.
I still have mine. And that's what's kind of crazy. And so then, you had mentioned that I came to then work with you guys. Mm-hmm. I joined your team. Like, what was it? I mean, I guess this is more of a personal question for me. Like, what was it that made you give me that opportunity?
I mean, your outgoing personality fit the culture of what we have. But also, I would say seeing discipline is a result of a good employee. I mean, discipline creates a good employee. Yeah. So when we add someone to the team back then on the sales team, that's what you did. Seeing someone who's disciplined enough to do that is a character trait that you desire to have on your team.
Big time.
And having you around, like, kept us on shit. We got to pull a bar.
Kind of, yeah.
We hated it.
Yes. We had to pull up for policies.
Yeah.
Like, every time somebody sold a policy, everybody else had to do pull-ups.
And people that couldn't. But we got there.
We got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do remember I learned through that interview process with you, that was the first time I had seen a business owner care enough about the culture and about their team to require the person that was potentially going to join to come set with everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, as you went through that experience, it's important that everyone knows the real side of the team, including me, the real side. Like, so I would bring, and you probably remember it, they come in, you get a chance to say the real questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking me. Yeah. So they could say, yeah, he's actually quite a dick sometimes. And I want that to be clear because you don't have any surprises.
It was clear.
It's fine.
But that's an interesting thing that you say that, because I didn't see it that way because of the way my father was, like the way my dad was. My dad was direct enough. But I think it can be viewed that way if people have never experienced that way. But it's really kind of refreshing when someone is direct.
Yeah.
When they see the potential in you, and that's all they're driving for.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's a good and bad thing. Like sometimes you want to hold your tongue, and you're not able to. When
was a time in business that you were like, man, I shouldn't have said that?
I mean, many times with comments to employees, but also it's understood because of the way that you're brought in, that this is who he is.
Right.
And there's going to be times where he doesn't hold his tongue, and maybe he should have. To the point where, like, employing women at the agency, it was Brandy and Corina had to be the wall in front of me to make sure that I was being correct, politically correct.
Where did that, you being that way, where'd that come from?
My mom.
Really?
She's direct. Yeah. My dad's not as direct. My dad is direct in a funny, justifiably trying to make a comment way. My mom's like, no nonsense bullshit. This is who I am, and you're gonna take it. So
I can see that. I worked with Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very matter of fact.
Yes. No emotion. I mean, she has emotion, but she would tell you how it is, because that's the fastest way from point A to point B.
Yeah. And that's it's interesting that she was the one. I think because most people would probably assume
I was mom's boy.
It came from your father.
Yeah, they got divorced when I was like 11 or 12, and like it was me and him got in big fights. So then I lived with mom.
But he was a business owner, right?
Yeah.
And is that kind of where your entrepreneur mindset and just did you always know you wanted to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I found Allstate when I was 20. I was working at Lincoln Financial pushing buttons, and they said, you can make $18,000. And I thought, I don't give a shit. What do you want me to do? I'll take that. Because I was making, $11 an hour at that point.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks later, I was driving to Chicago to train to open up. I took a loan from my grandma for $5,000 to open. We were supposed to have 15. I lied. And then I ended up having to go to the bank to get an unsecured $5,000 loan. I can't even remember the percentage point, but it was crazy.
It was a lot.
It was stupid. But thankfully, we survived.
Yeah, man, but think about how many people probably never would have taken that step.
Right.
Because that's scary.
It was scary. I was so broke that I didn't have a hotel room. I would drive home to Fort Wayne. So I got 2 tickets to and back from Chicago for 2 weeks. It was probably cheaper to
pay those tickets.
Get a hotel. I mean, it was, gas money. I mean, gas back then was what? 88 cents?
Yeah.
Different game.
Yeah, but it was your time, it was the effort, and it was really it's betting on yourself.
Right. It was potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. And selling insurance. I never sold a thing in my life. But again, it was $18,000. It was called a star bonus, and that's all you had to show a 20-year-old.
And that's interesting that you're able to, because that's a good example of, like, most people are like, well, what if? But you looked at that same question from the other side. Like, what if?
Yeah.
You see the possibilities in it.
Yeah. And I had nothing to lose because I had nothing.
Yeah, it was grandma's 5Gs.
Yeah. I mean, I would pay her back.
I know.
But, yeah, I mean, even the commitment of doing it, I lived in an apartment and had $7. So there was no money there.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even correlate the risk of bankruptcy and the lease and, like, what could have happened. And, like, almost did happen. In July of that year, I opened in February. July of that year, I had to go to lunch with who was our sales leader back then. And I had to lie and say I couldn't go because I was sick because I knew I didn't have any money left until the next paycheck. So, like, I tell that story when I speak at insurance events because people run those credit cards out to zero. And that was eye-opening for me. Couldn't pay my staff. There was a guy named Freddie, my OG, and said, look, man, I can't pay you this week. I'll pay you next week. And he was down to stick with me. And that was the last time I was disorganized like that. So that was a lesson.
It's interesting you say that because I remember when my dad owned his own business. I worked for him from like 16 through 21-ish. And I worked from literally cleaning the toilets at the bottom all the way up to running the books and doing payroll and all of that. And there were many weeks that he would call me and be like, hey, when you do payroll, can you not take a check?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we'll even make payroll.
It's hard.
And I remember looking at all of those things and be like, man, That's tough.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it drove him to the point where he literally would hide in his house sometimes.
There's a lot of pressure.
And not come out.
Yep.
And when I was younger, I didn't understand that. Because usually what sucked is he would put that on me. At 18 years old, I'm now having to go tell these grown men,
Right.
You're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
Or they would show up for work and I would have to send them home while he's hiding in the house.
Yeah.
I understand that now.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's not the right way, but
Right.
it makes more
You
sense.
see the perspective.
It makes more sense.
Because it sucks.
Yeah, it's tough. Man, it's tough.
Yeah.
Those are the real life lessons, but I think being where I'm at now, seeing where you're at now, it almost makes me feel bad for him
Yeah.
that he chose that route.
Right.
It's
Instead of just
unfortunate.
going through it. Right.
Yeah, just got to go through it.
Yep.
And he did. I mean, I learned a lot from him. I didn't appreciate it at the time.
Yeah. Right.
And as a father now,
We're older and wiser.
yeah, great. Yeah, literally. Gray hairs and everything.
We don't talk about age.
And I mean, so that kind of covers like how you and I met, like why our mindsets are similar in a lot of those ways. And I know friend isn't your main word, but I mean, I think through the years, like that's just how I think that's how friendships work. Like there are certain people that just you don't even have to say the words; they just get it.
Right.
You just know.
Yeah.
Like you're just wired the same way.
Yep. I agree.
So, I mean, we're sitting here in the lobby of Triumph. Never would have thought we'd have couches to sit on.
Yeah.
Never thought this place would be a place. Like, I would love for you to unpack a little bit of why Fort Wayne. What was the original inspiration for Triumph? Like, what was the conversation like between you and Corina? Like, from the start, like how did Triumph even become a thing? Like the word itself, Triumph, there has to be a specific reason for that.
You'll be surprised when you find out. So, Corina taught at the Y, and she was teaching fitness classes. Really, I think, and through stacking and through journaling, I almost pressured the whole thing because I thought I was doing it for her, and there was hesitation on her side where I flew out to a business event at Warrior, and Triumph was off. We weren't going to do it because I had just sold a software company. I was considering selling the agencies because I realized this thing was going to had to be funded, and I was in the back of a truck. It was no. The answer was no, and I was telling the guys I was riding with the answer is no. And then she called me and said, "All right, let's do it." And I vividly remember the call now, but it was. We used to take classes when we would fly for insurance conferences. So we go and have these experiences, and we always wanted to bring it back to this place. And Fort Wayne is just home for us. For me, she came here from Indy. And I knew nothing like that existed here and at all, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
Because it's an introduction to a whole different world. So we started to think about the idea. It was originally going to be just boxing, and it was originally going to be a Rumble. So I went to a Rumble class in LA in 2018, called them the next day and said, I want to buy this
Franchise.
franchise.
Yeah.
They weren't franchising. So they're all corporate. They were all owned by 9 guys.
Really?
And now they franchise, and it's a shit show. But like Rumble was going to be it. So then she was like, well, I want to do Cycle Studio. So then it was like, all right, let's do boxing. And then it became this massive space. And obviously I learned boxing locally at a gym here. So I fell in love with that. And that's how like Amelia and I met, and she trained me to box and all those things. And then the word Triumph, I remember the day at that gym, I said to myself, I need a name that I can put on apparel. That's how it came up. I was like, I need a powerful name. It needs to be a single word. And Triumph was the word that came out of it. There was no massive meaning behind it. It was a marketable name that I knew that could be said out loud and people would associate with something powerful.
And that all came from you? Because that was before AI and all that stuff.
That was, yeah.
Was that like Google searches? And
No, there was like, I don't even remember
did it
what
just
other
come
words
to
there were.
you?
It just was a word. And I feel like there were other words, but there always had to be a single word. I just can't remember what the other ones were. And then the evolution of the branding Dude, there's some old ugly pictures.
I found some in our Canva. Like we have the old, like if you scroll back to the bottom, like, but that's interesting for me to see the logo, like the variations that it went through.
Used to be a face.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
with like teeth. Was it a tooth missing or something?
Black, red, white. Yeah. And then there was like college block letters and and then I went and hired someone, and that's how we got to the branding.
Was that Barbara?
I hired Barbara, who introduced me to a branding company. No, actually, the branding company was from Warrior. Barbara was a consultant that really connected us with a lot of things. And like, to her credit, the details in her process were nuts. What does the Q-tip box look like? And that's really where we learned all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would have done this without her.
We were just, me, Mary, Amelia, and Kristen, I think, were just talking about the Oreo analogy.
Yeah.
That we sat in right here.
Yeah. Yeah, so she flew up to do that, and she's right. There's all these flavors of the same product, and it's just repackaged. And she opened studios all around the world. But she gave me a 326 line checklist.
I remember.
Yep.
You showed it to me.
And I did every fucking line. And it was just about, and I said, if I get all these things done, we'll be ready to go. I didn't know how much it was going to cost until we got to the end, but like it was thorough, and the Q-tip boxes looked a certain way, the sinks looked a certain way. And even at the end of that, as it's looked now, it didn't look like it did day one. So like we had to make it our own, but I was just following the lead of that person at that point.
Do you feel that was part of why it worked back then?
Yeah.
Just because I think some people it could be easy to be like, nah, I'm good. I know what I need to do. But
I'm not dumb. Like I am pay for knowledge, and I use the knowledge that I'm paying for.
There you go.
And that's, a lot of people don't do that.
Right.
They'll pay for coaching and they'll not listen to the coach. It's asinine.
Mind blowing.
It happens every day.
Yes.
And it's, if I pay for it, I'm going to try it because I paid for it. And if it doesn't work, then fine.
Right.
And we've molded and became what we became. We didn't have Pac and Biggie and X on the wall because it was supposed to be this stuffy space.
And I've been questioned since I've been the owner of why. Like,
it's just who we've been.
Right. And they were like, isn't that a risk?
Yeah, it's just who we are.
Right.
The cycle room was white. Now it's black.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't dark enough.
I still, every time I'm in boxing and I lay down and do core, I stare at the speakers every damn time.
Because they're white.
And I'm like, why weren't they black?
Yeah.
Like, I know
it was white.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Sanctuary series. I used to sell it at Sweetwater.
Yeah.
Like, I know.
They should have. I mean, they need to be painted, sir.
Yeah.
You can pay for that now. But yeah, like they stick out.
Right.
Because I realize that ceiling needs to be black.
Right. And that's when I look at other studios, whether it's on Instagram or on their website, a lot of them are white.
Yep.
But it's a way different experience.
It
is.
I
think the boot camp room is a perfect example, and what childcare used to be.
Yes.
That we had to figure out who we were.
Right.
Like we didn't know, which kind of leads to the lab. And like, was there a lot of thought and process into the selection of the OG coaches, like the original team? I mean, I remember what my process was like.
Yeah. I mean, you were there for the Hell Week.
Yeah. And I was there for you, Johnny, Corina sitting on beanbag chairs while I was on a pallet on a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. Yeah. The auditions were pre-week. Yeah.
Pre-Hell Week. Yeah. You had to go through the audition to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then after Chicago,
that was Hell Week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the lab came up. Johnny found the location, and I didn't want to spend much money, so it was $600 a month. I thought, perfect. I didn't correlate carrying the bikes through a dirty ass hallway up the stairs over and over again. So I learned that lesson. But that lab feeling was triumph.
Yeah.
It was grimy, it was gritty, it was real, it was dirty sometimes. We're not dirty here, but it felt raw. And we needed that really because we were a shit show.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
Right. And that's why I went to Chicago. Like I traveled the world with insurance and experienced these places. I wanted everybody here who doesn't to go feel that. Yeah. And even in Chicago is nothing like this place.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Well, and now this is sort of jumping ahead, and we'll come back. But now, being everywhere you've been, do you feel that Triumph is to standard?
It's not even close. It's the best. And that's not because we were the ones that built it. It's the best. But it's the best because of the details of what we did. And what we still do.
Yeah.
What you keep going. The way that they say hello at the desk. The way that they set them up on the bike. The way that they do cards.
The cards.
Like all of those things.
Details matter.
Right.
Just like the checklist.
Yes.
Which from my standpoint, like, it would be foolish to go in there and tamper with that.
Yeah.
Like, it works.
Right.
And now that we have, we'll be going on 5 years soon. Those cards, like, wherever that first came from, those cards make such an impact.
That was not even that was from bash boxing. So I went crazy and followed every single studio in the world. I had every studio app on my phone to, like, figure out if we had a slow day, does everybody else have slow days? And, like, trying to figure out what the comparison game was. And then I saw the cards from Bash one day, and that's where that came from. And I didn't know if they were going to be cool or not. But even the front desk girls, they love making them, and people love receiving them.
I don't know if you've seen their art kit that they have now.
I saw it, yeah.
They have, it's crazy.
But people post about it on social media.
Yes. Yeah, and they put the attention to details is kind of mind-blowing.
Right.
And it's cool to see them enjoying that part of their job.
Yeah.
Like, they get to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that part still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, was there any specific part to the selection of the coaches? I mean, you said Hell Week. Like, what?
Yeah.
That was Barry and Shay.
It was Barry and Shay. And we found we used to listen to a podcast called Fitness Career Mastery.
Yeah.
It was God's gift to us because we didn't know what we were doing. And shout out Barry and Shay. We hired them. Corina, we actually hired them, and they were going to send one of their, like, trainees. And Corina's like, if you can come, we're not paying you.
Right.
So they're like, all right. So they both flew out. To answer your question, no. We didn't know what we were hiring because we didn't know what we had locally from a talent perspective. So I want to say there was 26 people or something, and we ended up with 10, 11 maybe at the end.
Yeah.
And it was like old school red tag in your locker the next day type shit.
I remember.
Yeah. And, like, I had to make those calls at night. And it was, hey, you're not coming back tomorrow because you can't hear the beat or you don't have the energy or all, like, so many details. And that's when probably my brain started to realize, holy shit, we got to hold these coaches to a standard that I never imagined, which made me the bad guy, which was hard.
But sometimes, I mean, just like Batman. I mean, sometimes you have to be the villain in order to be the hero.
Yeah.
Like, you had to maintain the standard.
Yeah. And it was difficult because, like, my wife's amazing and she wants to love on everybody. So it was hard for her to watch me do that. And that's when it started to just tear at us because I was so focused, because I was so pressured financially. I'm like, this thing can't fail.
Yeah.
But then I would be distracted by doing all that, and that's when it started to become hard on us.
And it is, and I think, people don't always realize the impact that it has behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, it's a massive thing. And, until you know, you don't know.
Right.
And then I think part of this industry specifically, too, is we're asking people to be emotional, which means then the staff is emotional.
Right.
Like, it's an emotional energy.
Yeah.
And that can be combustible.
Yes, it can. And you give off so much emotion at work, you got to make sure you save the emotion at home.
Yeah.
Like, they deserve the most emotion.
Well, and it probably did not help in the beginning after the lab, after we get the team going, and then a pandemic happens. Because for a lot of us, the lab was such a special place.
Right.
Like, it's hard to put into words.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that you mentioned, but we kind of lived together.
The amount of hours put in there when you look back that were unpaid were incredible.
None of it. Like, I remember getting up at 3 a.m. to go do the workout before I did a run through for you guys.
Right.
Like,
and just practice and practice. People were there from 8 to 5.
We lived there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, to your point, that's what created this place.
Right.
Because we did that for 6 months almost before we ever had a real class.
Yeah.
And then we showed ourselves through the real classes until we figured out the details of that.
I remember we were all like, what do we do now? Because I remember the text that you sent to everybody. Like, hey, from as far as you know, the lab's closed.
Right.
And I don't know when we'll open.
Right.
And and construction was almost done here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that feeling like?
Was
After
terrifying.
the money you had spent, the hours, and then all of a sudden, I don't know.
I offered to drive through Texas to get the lighting and sound people here because they were saying they can't fly because they're scared. I said, I'll wear a fucking mask all the way back to home. Like, I'll come get you right now because I needed it done.
Right.
And that was in March. Which they never even came till May. So, like, there was this need for them to get here. Excuse me. Need for them to get here. And that was the first delay. And then there was the next delay, and the next delay, and the next delay. And then the city people were now off work. So I couldn't get permits approved. And, I mean, all the way up until May 1st. And that's when the permits started to get approved. So we could open May 25th.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And that's what, like, being where we're at now, I'm sure there's so many members and people just don't even know how close it was to not happening.
Right. And we opened, and then, 3 weeks later, the race ride started.
Yeah.
We had to board up the whole place. Our sign.
Yeah, because
Looks
then
like
I
Trump.
remember we launched, and then you sent another text of, hey, I'm boarding everything up.
We're going to sit inside with guns and try to protect this place. Cause it was yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Dad were out here all night boarding up. We put a 30-foot tarp over the sign because illiterate people think it says Trump.
I still will sometimes be traveling or go somewhere, and people will look at my shirt and
Yeah.
like there's another letter
No.
in there.
There's a couple letters in there, actually.
Right. But yeah, and that's just, that's interesting. It was so much we didn't know. We had the pit crew in the beginning.
Yep. We had arrows on the ground. Like, people are dumb.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know where to walk. But that was the law.
Yeah.
That's how dumb America got for a second.
And I remember in boxing,
Yes.
that's where the pit crew was.
Yes.
You had to do 5 rounds on this side, and then you switched. But in between, people would come in with little headlamps
To clean.
like you're a coal miner and clean.
Yeah.
Which some of those practices we still do. Like, we still clean everything in between but
It was overboard.
that was wild.
But it was overboard to make sure people felt safe.
Yeah.
Like, that was the idea. Because that was the sales pitch at that point.
With all of that stuff stacked against it, boutique fitness studio, higher price tag, what the hell's boxing and rhythm cycle, all of those things in Fort Wayne, like, what do you think it was that captured people's attention and got them here?
The experience of the coaches. Like, the words and the attention to detail in the class. The effort that's put into the playlist. All those things.
Yeah.
But every single detail created that experience.
It all did.
Right.
And the Instagram presence and
Yep.
and that's where, like, still to this day we'll sometimes hear, like, it's intimidating.
Yep.
Which, good in a healthy way. Like,
It
I
is
don't,
good.
I don't think we should ever lose that.
I mean, some of the things you're doing now are things that my wife always wanted me to do, and I was too hard-headed to listen to. Like, the personal stories. I wish I would have listened to a lot of things. But I was like, all right, we're full-on going aggressive because no one else was doing that here.
Right.
And that was going to be the pitch. And if people were scared, they're going to come in and realize they don't need to be scared. But there was a massive wall of intimidation that still exists.
And you just said something that I think is part of the magic of that is I think people come here intimidated and expect one thing, and then when they walk through that door and get greeted with kindness and a
Right.
smile and a handmade card, and I think that's part of the shock factor of, like, oh, damn.
Right.
Like, okay, yes, you're all of those things I thought you were, but you're also all of these other things.
Mm-hmm. It has
Yeah.
a local business gym feel once you step inside.
Yeah. Which will be interesting to be able to recreate that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's where the vision takes it.
Right.
Like, there are other Fort Waynes and communities that need what we have.
Right. And all of those processes and details that you have, you got to replicate.
Right.
And that's the hardest part.
That is the...
Not just fitness. Any company.
Right.
Any second location becomes much more difficult than the first.
Well, and you said that kind of makes me think of something you said before that I wanted to make sure we talk about, too. You mentioned Warrior earlier, which is body being balanced and business being a big focus of something that you have practiced for years, and you kept telling me for years, do this shit, and my stubborn ass didn't until January 4th of 2021, and it changed everything.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is focusing on not just business, but your health, your spiritual relationship with yourself and with God, and at home.
Right.
Like, and to scale a business is tough.
It's exhausting. So you have to make sure that you're in power every day. But it also is a massive focus on your relationships to make sure your family's okay. Even if you practice it like I did for so long, you can still become overwhelmed with the place and fall apart. So if I didn't have Warrior, it would have been much worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm thankful for it, but it's an undertaking to do that.
It's a lot.
And live that way.
And it's interesting, though, that you've said before, like, maintaining the standard, which is literally now the company that you're building now.
Right.
Which, like, I think through this conversation and what I already knew before, like, there's a standard to life. Like, the way you operate in life, which is probably part of why we got along.
Yeah.
Because I think we all have things that we need to work on, but I've always had like a standard operating procedure. Like, there are some non-negotiables in life. Like, my stubborn ass would work out in a shed with ice on the dumbbells.
And your ears ringing and all these things.
Yes. Yeah, that was dumb. That was dumb. But it was my only option.
Right.
So it was what had to be done. Like, it was the equivalent of you driving to Chicago back and forth. Like, it's just what had to happen.
And you want to surround yourself with people that live that way.
Right.
And cut out the people that don't.
Yeah. And it's something I've talked to my kids about. Like, you don't want to be the best player on the team. You want to surround yourself with people that are constantly requiring you to level up.
Right.
Like, they will not settle for less, which I think is part of what has been built here with the coaches and with like, we hold each other to a standard. There is
it's good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's pressure.
It is pressure.
Yeah. And it's not for everybody.
It takes a toll.
Right.
I mean, there are some times when I would love to be able to come and just take class and be in the dark.
Right.
But that's just not the reality of it.
Not anymore, buddy.
No. But that's like, that was a decision that had to be made.
Right.
And for all the coaches, like, there is an expectation.
Yeah.
And I think everybody does a great job. Like, every day I'll see front desk that is here to take a class and enjoy, but they'll step up they'll see a need and they'll still do it.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is back to the standard that you created, that it was just, this is how we operate. Like, that's part of the code of conduct.
I mean, people desire and want to be on stage, and then they do it, and they're like, okay, this is a lot, and then they want to go back, but they kind of want to do it, but then they realize, I lost that special place to disconnect from, and they want that back.
You do have to make a choice.
Right. Can't have both.
No.
Unfortunately.
It's just the reality of it.
Right.
And that's what, like, there's value to being able to hide sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, we need that disconnect,
right.
But that's what it's required from us. And it's wild. And I'm sure you see the same thing in people you coach now.
Yeah. I mean,
business.
they business owners need someone that understands the pressure. And that's ultimately what the standard's about, which is helping people through body being balanced in business, finding power, but also they can talk to me because I know the stress, because I own agencies.
Yeah.
So, like, I coach insurance agency owners, and it's hard. Like, if you miss bonus, shit is hard. And then you got to go talk to your spouse about it. And then you don't go work out because you just got in a fight last night. And, like, all of those things start to be interconnected.
Yeah.
And then it's 4 months later. And then you're drinking. And then all of those things happen. And now your wife is mad at you because you're drinking. Like, it's a snowball effect.
It's all tied together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you question God. You say, why did this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? And then you find out later that, because I had to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of how earlier we talked about what if. Like, you can look at that from two different sides. Just like you can question God, why me? Like, you can look at it from one perspective of, why me? But if you can flip to like a childlike curiosity of, okay, why me?
Right.
Like, it's a way different vantage point.
Yep.
And do you think that's part of, I know that's part of what we do at Triumph. Do you think that you take that same thing to Standard as far as getting business owners to shift their perspective from why me to,
I mean,
like,
we're always lesson searching for what's happening and why it's happening, and what are we going to take from it, not necessarily what's it going to take from us.
yeah,
And if you do the opposite and say, this is taking from me, you're going to sit in that space.
you think that's what most people do?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the most victim mentality world
Big time.
ever created. So, and they build upon each other,
Yeah.
and they support each other's woe is me conversation, and you get stuck until someone comes along and directly says, fuck around and find out, or move.
Which is part of why the directness can be so refreshing.
Right.
If you're at a place where you're ready to hear what you need to hear.
Right.
And I think some people just aren't.
Right. And they hear it though.
They hear it.
And it's injected, and then they'll realize it at some point in time.
Yeah.
And go, wish I would have listened to that 6 months ago.
Yeah. I've had many of those.
Right.
I mean, shit, there have been times that you've told me things
Yeah.
that I didn't want to hear. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when you know someone cares.
Right.
If they will tell you, knock it off.
Right.
Like, you're being a bitch. Quit it.
I'd say that.
We all have our own filters. Like, we all look through things through a lens. You sure as hell didn't say, hey, you're being really stubborn. You didn't say that either.
Tried to.
Well, I mean, but we hear what we need to hear.
Right.
And sometimes you have to be told the same thing many times. But you've also given grace many times.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you could have given this opportunity to others.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know exactly what the reason was, but I'm glad God said.
I think part of the reason was watching you and Kelly operate and knowing what it did to me and Corina and saying they're strong and they can do this. That was very much part of it.
Yeah.
Because if that wasn't secure.
Knowing, because of what you went through.
Right.
Knowing what it potentially could have done.
Yeah. I mean, it almost destroyed us because we were building a place for everybody else. Or I was. Not necessarily her. Like, she was going through it because of what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I was so focused on building. And she was trying to get my attention. I wasn't listening. And Kelly ain't going to do that. And you're not going to do it to her.
Yeah.
And I was confident in that. So, like, you are, what, 17 years older than me or so? So, like,
Dick.
So I knew you had the years on me.
I had the wisdom.
Yeah.
Had the gray hairs. Yeah, yours is still orange. Mine's turning gray.
Yeah, there you go. You got it back. Okay, I'll take that. But no, that was definitely part of it.
And part of why I feel like her and I were, I mean, it's been years of work, but I did get to see the toll it took.
Yeah.
But
But you got to see. No one else did.
Yeah.
So that's different.
Right.
So publicly, I was put together. Privately, I was a mess.
And many people are.
Right.
And I think that's, hopefully people will be able to take that away, that it can happen to anybody.
Right.
Like, you're a builder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God designed you to build to a fault.
Right, to a fault.
To where sometimes it can be easy to, if you're not daily focusing on investing in that area.
Yeah.
That you do now.
I mean, we built Fault Tool. It was hard. And, like, there was a comment, like Corina said, you're never doing software again, because it was constant. And here I am doing software. That's not the same. But, like, with this, we were so intertwined that it was this snowball effect that it felt like it couldn't be stopped. So we just kept going and going and going until the point where it got so bad that it could not go any longer, because only that matters that I talk about is the mountain at home. Everything else doesn't matter. So when it became clear that was going to crumble, that's when the move had to be made.
Yeah.
And God said, "Here's Tyler," and I'm thankful to this day.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's, for years I questioned, just like everybody else, why me? Why? But I now understand all the shit I had been through.
Right. So you go for it.
Yes. To be able to have hard conversations, to have empathy, to be direct, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild how that works.
And the mix of this business is you. Music, lights, all of it.
People have
Fitness.
asked before, like it is literally only God designed something like that.
Right.
For me.
Right.
I mean, selfishly, like
Right.
I feel like yes, it's hard work, but there are other days where it's like I get to do this shit.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right.
Like I get to be a DJ in a way, and a motivational speaker, and a coach,
And the health space.
and
Yeah. The stuff you've been doing forever.
yeah. But now can get paid to do
It's a
it.
whole other level.
Yeah. And it is, man. It's wild when you see, like before we started this, we were talking about my idea a long time ago of, wouldn't it be cool to have a wall of Triumph?
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, as long as people are buying memberships.
Right.
Which is, you have to have both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just have one or the other.
I was blinded by the debt.
Well,
So that was my focus.
understandably.
Yep.
I mean,
Understandably to you because you see it.
I
Not understandably to anybody else.
I understand it now.
Yeah. I mean, the public perception wants the experience.
And that's where me as an owner now, I'm trying to learn that good mix of seeking to be understood. So if I say no, or hey, we need to do things this way, shedding some understanding of, because it matters to this
Yeah.
degree.
Which is good because I wasn't good at that. I was,
But
shut the fuck up.
Yes. Yes, there was that.
And that's not a good way to operate at times. So that's the fault of that.
at times,
At
but there
times.
are other times when it.
Sometimes.
And I
Shit.
think we've all. I mean, now we had to go where we were to get to where we were to now be where we're at.
Right.
What do you see for, like, what do you see for Triumph 5 years from now?
You want me to business plan yourself out and make you more in debt or what?
Well, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. I see it in multiple locations. And I'm excited to watch it. And that's
Yeah.
why I told you from the beginning. Like I'm happy to still be a part of this and watch it go to where I thought it was going to go, where I couldn't take it.
And I think everyone, members, team, everybody are grateful that you and Corina are still.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll always be the founders.
Yeah.
Always. Just like the original people will be the original people. And it's amazing that so many are still here. And it's exciting watching people that have joined become the people.
Right.
Like, it's wild how that all works.
Yeah,
Where do you see the standard going in 5 years?
I don't know. It's gone better than I ever imagined so far. But we're going to build out a location and bring people to train. But it's really, really clear that it's just God's design. Like, I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Ever.
I feel that.
And it's cool. Yeah. And like you said, it's a mix of, now that I'm somewhat back in software, it's a mix of my old insurance life. It's a mix of Warrior. It's a mix of Follow-Up Tool. Body's integrated with Triumph. And this, like, it's all of the things intertwined in one, which makes you feel like you're living your purpose, which is cool.
Yes. And that was something that I learned through Warrior because you kept nudging me.
Yeah.
Like soul's purpose.
Right.
Like I've never felt more aligned than I do now.
Right.
Which is a wild feeling.
And that's when you can become elite in business. That's the connection point that people don't get.
Yeah.
When they see the people that question Warrior or question living that way, it's because the mirror is so bright back on them that they're like, "You're crazy. Why are you doing that? It's crazy. It's crazy because you can't do it, and you don't have the capacity or the discipline to do it, and you want to do it because you know what would happen if you did do it, but it's a lot of work."
It's a lot of work.
Yep.
Like 3:50 in the morning is a different type of. I want it.
We're at 3:07 now, buddy. Like that's it, and it's
And you just wake up without an alarm sometimes,
pretty much
right?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm so excited to Bible stack that the lessons that I get from the Bible in the morning through the process that we do, it applies to the day.
Right.
So I look forward to the message to see what happens.
And I think that speaks a lot to soul's purpose. And like I've said before, it's not an alarm clock, it's an opportunity clock.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's different when you're pulled forward versus being pushed.
Right.
An alarm clock is you being pushed to go do something you don't want to do. Like, you waking up at 3:07 out of excitement
Right.
that you get to go do this and go build some shit.
Right.
Like, it's a way different thing.
I can't even. I don't even know the last time I snoozed an alarm. I can't even fathom.
You know, late night snacking, snooze.
Yeah.
Leads to the snooze button.
Yeah. I can't even. I don't know. I can't tell you the last time I snoozed or fell back asleep. I'm sure it happens sometime, but
You're just up.
I'm just up. Might as well be up. Sometimes it's before that, unfortunately.
I mean,
that space, that's 5 hours before most people get up. There's a lot you can get done.
and it's a whole different type of community in those hours.
It's my space.
Right.
Because like when the kids get up and Corina's up, it's time for us to serve.
Yeah.
So if I wake up with them, there's no space for me to serve myself.
And I think that's what a lot of people do. They want it until that alarm clock goes off,
Right.
which you have to invest that time in you so that you can go serve.
It's the only time people say, well, I can't get a workout in. You can.
Right.
My kids are up. Your kids get up at a certain time.
It might not be 5 a.m. might not have been what you wanted,
Right.
but that's the only time.
Right. I don't get a workout in at night because I'm busy. Well, then you can't do it at night. It's not working out.
Right.
So we got to make a change.
Yeah. And I think that's people don't want to change.
And it's not just
nobody
working out.
likes
It's all
change.
the things. It's making sure you send a text to your wife or whatever. I've been sending text to another person for 107 days now. Just randomly in my phone. And the connection conversations I have are crazy.
Yeah.
I don't talk to these people ever. But I say, hey, I'm praying for you today. Hope everything's amazing. I text a dude I haven't talked to since 2008. I don't know why he's still on my phone. But he's like, holy shit, thank you. I needed that.
Right.
Wild.
What do you think that is?
God. He knew he needed the text.
Yeah. Do you ever now catch yourself feeling that feeling of someone's on your heart for a reason and you're like, before maybe you'd have been like, just keep going?
Yeah, just send a text.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to make a phone call. I don't like talking on the phone. We both know that. So a text is the way we communicate now. And it takes no effort to send a text.
And you can reach anyone in the world.
Right.
Like I text somebody the other day who sent back, I don't normally get these texts.
Right.
Because he's the type of person that usually sends them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a reminder for me that the people that usually charge other people's batteries rarely get it back. And they need it too.
Especially, in your position, you feel that.
I feel that.
Yep.
Like one of the best things that Kelly Bird ever said was, you have to get to a place that you don't need a thank you.
Yep.
And that was something I needed to hear.
Right.
Like, I could do all of these things for all of these people and don't expect a thank you.
Right.
And take it a step further. Not only don't expect it, don't need it.
Yep.
And it was interesting because what he said is like, do they show up for work? Do they do what is asked of them? That's your thank you.
Right. You don't need more.
That was a huge...
Yeah. Yeah, because living with that expectation, not getting it is demoralizing.
Well, yeah. Having an expectation set me up for disappointments.
Right.
And I think it does for everybody. That's just human nature.
Loving what is. Yep.
Yeah, if you have never read that book, read that book.
It's amazing.
You pushed me to read that book, which is part of where stacking came from.
Right.
Man. So where do you don't know what's next for the Standard? Hard to say?
No, I don't care. I'm just rolling. Yeah, which is a great place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I have the plan to build out HQ, and
I'm excited to see that come together.
Have masterminds and stuff like that, and I'm blessed to go speak at these places and all these things. But this is the first business that I don't have an exit strategy before I launched. So
That says a lot.
that's good and bad. Might be stupid. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, but you've never you've never been as equipped as you are now.
Right.
And why do you sometimes having the exit strategy like the whole Cortez's ships?
Mm-hmm.
Like now you burnt the ship.
Yeah, we're definitely burned.
There is no back.
Right. But there's I'll do something if I need to do something. Never down my mind.
Yeah. Well, with this, I mean, Corina's involved. It's a whole, like, it'd be amazing someday. I could see the whole top of the mountain.
Yeah.
As part of it.
Yeah. I mean, having her be bought in is an incredible thing. And she was bought in here until it started to destroy us. And then she's not bought anymore. But we were so deep in that I didn't know what to do. So it was like when your eyes shake all the time. That was like 24/7.
Are they turn red when you teach boot camp?
Yeah. That might be a health thing. I don't know. That might be age.
Yeah, we still don't know what that was from. That was like, damn.
This shit still happens.
He put us through it.
Yeah.
Like his eyes turned red.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the devil red either. It was just red.
And that's, yeah. So that is something that I've learned and I will definitely always carry with me and be mindful of, because I have had moments in this last year where Kelly and I just aren't our normal selves.
Yeah.
And I've had to pause and set myself down and be like, okay, what am I do? I'm being an ass.
Right.
Why? And it's usually because the task list is never done.
But like ultimately, it's crazy that I ever considered anyone else's feelings over my wife's. Ever. And I did all the time. Not just here, every business. Like what employee's got to be okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And like I think it was Garrett that said that's the only person that matters. Like that person's perception, that person's feeling. You don't justify someone else's over that, even if you don't agree with it. Like that's the one that's got to matter first. And ever since then, I make sure of that because it's the only one.
Yeah.
It's your life partner.
Right.
What the fuck am I doing? Think about anybody else. They're my life partner. That's crazy.
But I think a lot of people
It's pressure.
don't, yeah.
It's pressure.
And not just that, but I mean, to play off of standard, the way you treat her and the way she treats you is the standard that your children will have in their mind for their future relationships. Yep. Like I don't remember what book I read it in or where I heard it, but that was a big lesson for me.
Yeah.
Like I will speak to Kelly in a very intentional way, or not speak to her because this is who Nyla will base the husband she chooses someday off of.
Yeah, I mean Lily's gonna date when she's 40. We'll see how that boyfriend is. Before then, she could.
Yeah.
Before then, you come over your wife beater and your pistol, and we'll talk to him.
I got you. I'll grow the mullet back.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, all of those things culminate into a pretty awesome life.
Yep.
I mean, Corina's phrase that I now borrow turn trials into triumphs. Mm-hmm. Like, did she say that before triumph, or did that come
I think
through
it came from here. Yeah.
Just like keep showing up for me.
Yep.
Like, and that's what has been so cool. Kristen we do hard things that she got from her mom when she passed, and I think that's part of all of these things.
Right.
Having a standard. Like, we've all learned from one another, and we will continue to do that. If there was anybody out there that resonated with any of the stuff you said, like that just needs to figure out what it is they're missing, or what they need to flip the switch to be able to see things from that what if and take that next step in their life to elevate closer to their soul's purpose. If you had a piece of advice.
Right. That's it. When I was at the darkest time, I started prayer stacking, and I was so at wit's end that I said, I'm here and I'm willing to do whatever you tell me to do. It's tattooed on my legs now. It's on my wall at my office. Like that, one conversation, and then once you finally feel it, and then you yearn for the conversation, it changes everything. I never once said I was going to be this Jesus pumper. And I'm not this guy that says you need to go to church at all. Sorry, Pastor. Like you can pull up a chair, like we talk about.
Yeah.
Have a conversation in your head, or out loud, or on a piece of paper, or on a computer, and go, holy shit. And guess what? God says I can say shit.
Right.
And I'm totally secure with that.
Yeah.
And when you find that certainty, and then the crazy part with that, I just had a conversation with my grandma. I think this whole conversation threatens people because they can't control my thoughts. and what I'm supposed to say and what I'm supposed to do. You can't do it. So it's threatening to them. You're not supposed to act like that, or you're not supposed to say that.
Says who?
Right. My God says I'm cool. I'm good with it. My God says I can talk to him like he's my best friend.
That was one of my biggest realizations in my faith, is understanding like I don't have to sit at the edge of my bed.
Right. I'm not
to say a prayer.
Put me in a box.
Like I can, but I can also be like, man, what's up?
Yeah.
I can speak like it's my best friend, because
Right.
it is.
Right.
Yeah.
You can try to put me in a box. I'll just kick you down, bust your box open. It's fine.
Yeah. I think people might be shocked, I don't know, to hear you say the biggest piece of advice would be pray.
Maybe they would have been, unless they've been watching me the past year.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember when you first sent a screenshot of a prayer stack, and you're like, yo, check this out.
Yeah. And then then he created Bible stacking.
Right.
And I mean, truthfully, I spend more time Bible stacking than I do prayer stacking.
Same. Because I do now because of the way you showed me to do it.
Yeah. There's just lessons there that are amazing. And it's still conversations with God. It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's also intentional.
Yeah, seeking to extract the lesson.
Right.
And then taking that into the things that are happening in your day-to-day life.
Right.
In business, with your marriage. Like, why?
And the consistency brings you in conversation, not when you're only in problems, which is usually when people pray.
Yes. That's how I had
this is happening to me, so now I'm going to talk.
I was on Allen County lockup floor when I came to Jesus. Yeah.
Right.
Because I needed him. Yeah. It's wild how that works.
Nope.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for your time, for your friendship, for the guidance, for the light that you shine in everybody else's lives. And I'm just excited to see you climb the mountain with your people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of you for being able to say that that's not the way.
Yeah.
This is my way. And I think I'm shocked that we both unapologetically will speak on Jesus' name to whoever will listen.
Yeah.
Because I'm still learning that that's what it's about.
Right. It takes time.
It does.
And all those same things back to you. You're going through it.
Going through it.
And you went through the first year successfully and survived.
Yeah.
Literally. That was the game.
That was the Survive. Yeah. And thankfully there's a lot of great people around me that have helped.
Right.
So, yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And this is episode 1 of Triumph Fuel and Fire. So we definitely appreciate Justin being involved with it. We appreciate you founding this place. And I'm excited to see where things go.
Thanks,
and
man.
if you haven't been to Triumph, definitely come peep us out. It's not as scary as it might look.
We're nice.
I promise.
The tattoos are fake.
They're real.
They're
pretty real. But yeah, we have nutrition coaching. We have 6 different modalities. And we just want to have you be a part of this community that has been such an amazing experience to grow. So we thank you for your time. Peace.